Please address game theory's prisoner's dilemma in detail and exemplify each strategy in a business setting. Game representations. Simultaneous game. A game where each player chooses his action without knowledge of the actions chosen by other players. Sequential game. A game where one player chooses their action before the others choose theirs. Importantly, the later players must have some information of the first choice. Otherwise, the difference in time would have no strategic effect. Dominant strategy. A strategy that is always better than any other strategy, regardless of what the other player is doing. Nash equilibrium. A set of strategies, one for each player, such that no player has incentive to change his strategy given what the other players are doing. Prisoner's dilemma. A classic problem in game theory that illustrates why two rational individuals might not cooperate, even when it seems like it would be in their best interest to do so. Imagine a situation where two people are arrested for a crime and are held in separate cells. They cannot communicate with each other. The police offer each person the same deal. They can either betray their partner by testifying against them or remain silent. If both people betray each other, they both serve 2 years in prison. If one person betrays the other while the other remains silent, the betrayer is set free while the silent person serves 3 years in prison. If both people stay silent, they both serve only 1 year in prison on a lesser charge. In this scenario, betraying the other person is the dominant strategy because it always leads to a better outcome for the individual, regardless of what the other person does. However, if both people choose to betray each other, they both end up worse off than if they had both remained silent. This outcome, where both people betray each other, is called a Nash equilibrium because neither person has an incentive to change their strategy based on the other person's choice. An example of a real-world prisoner's dilemma is the toothpaste wars, where two toothpaste companies, Colgate and Sensodyne, must decide whether to advertise their products. If both companies advertise, they each earn $3 million in profits. If one company advertises while the other does not, the advertising company earns $6 million in profits, while the non-advertising company earns only $2 million. If neither company advertises, they both save on advertising costs and each earn $5 million in profits. In this situation, advertising is the dominant strategy for both companies because it leads to higher profits, no matter what the other company does. However, if both companies could cooperate and agree not to advertise, they would both earn more profits. Unfortunately, the fear of losing market share to the other company prevents them from cooperating, leading to a suboptimal outcome. Another example is the chocolate wars, where Mars and Hershey had to decide whether to invest in product placement for the movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Mars ultimately decided not to invest, losing $0.5 million in profits. If Mars had invested, they would have lost only $0.2 million. Both companies would have been better off if neither had invested in product placement, but the fear of losing profits to the other company led to a suboptimal decision. Price wars can also be understood using the prisoner's dilemma framework. Companies continuously lower their prices to gain a competitive edge, but this ultimately hurts themselves and the market in the long run. If companies could cooperate and maintain higher prices, they could potentially achieve better profit margins and avoid driving smaller, marginal firms out of the market. In some cases, cooperation can improve outcomes for both parties in a prisoner's dilemma. Repeated interactions, where the game is played multiple times, can encourage cooperation if players value future payoffs and are less inclined to betray their partner for short-term gains. Strategies like the Grim Trigger can also promote cooperation by punishing defection, making it less appealing for players to betray one another. In real-world situations, mechanisms such as Most-Favoured-Customer clauses or aggressive commitments can be used to induce cooperation or eliminate unattractive outcomes. For instance, Airbus's decision to build production facilities specifically for the A380 model can be seen as an aggressive commitment to eliminate the possibility of competing with Boeing's 747X for the same market. This decision forced both companies to cooperate and avoid a potentially damaging price war.